At CRH, our values guide everything we do. They are the core expectations for the quality of our work and the way we do business with our colleagues, customers, and communities. And at the heart of our values is our shared commitment to put safety first. This means we all have the duty to protect and look out for each other so that everyone goes home safe after each day's work. It's because of our genuine commitment to providing a safe work environment that CRH has developed a series of life-saving rules which help guide how our work gets done and ensure the safe workplace that you deserve. With each general category of potential hazard within our operations considered, we will discuss how work on our CRH job sites applies to each of the following life-saving rules: risk assessment, equipment safety, isolation of operating machinery and electrical safety, machine guarding, confined space entry, working at heights, lifting operations, underground and overhead utility dangers, use of personal protective equipment, PPE, safety of materials under pressure, blasting operations, work zone safety, employee engagement, contractor safety management. We start with assessing risk, since the ability to recognize a potential hazard is key to the safety of our employees and contractors. Every company must have a documented risk assessment policy in place, and it must be communicated to all employees and contractors. Likewise, all employees and contractors at a site are expected at the beginning of every work shift to gather as a group and take a few minutes to discuss the tasks necessary to do the job and the safety concerns that exist. The group then discusses the solutions that will minimize or eliminate the concerns, as well as any tools, procedures, and PPE necessary to do the job safely. Depending on the discussion, as risks become more complex, or if a significantly hazardous task arises, a written risk assessment may be required. A written assessment, such as a job safety analysis, outlines in a detailed manner what hazards are present and which solutions and tools are necessary to do the job. Regardless of method used, however, remember that processes are in place to evaluate the hazards of the job and that good risk assessment prior to any task you do is a vital part of all work done here at CRH. If you've ever seen a construction site, quarry, or asphalt plant in operation, the first thing you'll notice is that there can be a lot going on. For this reason, each location is required to have documented site transport rules in place that address vehicle and pedestrian segregation, vehicle rules associated with speed limits, and the use of mobile phones. Be sure to check with every facility or job site you work at, as you will be expected to comply with their traffic control plan. All drivers and equipment operators, including those employed by contractors, must be adequately trained, regularly assessed, and must carry out daily pre-shift inspections. Seatbelts must be worn at all times while operating vehicles or equipment, and all loads must be adequately secured according to DOT regulations and within vehicle weight limits. In addition, there should be adequate protection of slopes and benches to prevent a fall or a vehicle or equipment from traveling over the edge. At any site, the backing of vehicles and equipment present one of the most significant risks to employees on foot. High visibility apparel is required at all times when there is an exposure to traffic. Also, in accordance with OSHA and MSHA standards, vehicle and equipment backup alarms are mandatory. Always remember that the best way to protect yourself is to be visible and stay alert. When it comes to maintenance or repair of equipment, isolation of the operating machinery is essential for the safety of the employees performing the work or for those nearby. For this reason, every location has a detailed lockout, tagout, verify policy in place, and all employees are trained on it at least annually. Furthermore, each machine component has a written procedure for the safe isolation of energy, which all authorized employees are trained on and must adhere to. All of these procedures are inspected annually to ensure accuracy in the event of additions or changes to the equipment. Keep in mind that isolation procedures include not just electrical energy, but other sources of energy such as mechanical, pneumatic, chemical, and thermal energy too. On rare occasions, it may not be feasible to perform work or certain tasks on equipment that is locked out. These situations must be identified in advance as a close proximity maintenance task. These tasks require a written procedure which includes a job safety analysis detailing very specifically how that task will be completed safely. For all maintenance and repair work to be done, all sites will have a sufficient number of locks, tags, and other implements necessary to properly isolate the energy from the equipment. And under no circumstances is it ever allowed to simply store or hang a lock on an electrical panel when the equipment is actually operating, because this may give someone the impression that the panel is properly locked out when it actually isn't. Because of the extreme electrical dangers that are present at many sites, all employees and electrical contractors who troubleshoot electrical systems, perform voltage testing, operate breakers with the covers off, or are otherwise exposed to live or potentially live circuits are required to be trained in NFPA 70E and must wear the appropriate ARC-rated personal protective equipment during electrical tasks. Contractors are also required to provide a letter of certification of their NFPA 70E training. Every facility is also required to have arc flash surveys conducted by a qualified person with the corresponding electrical labels installed. And all authorized employees or contractors who work on electrical equipment must confirm zero energy prior to work and verify disconnection through use of a voltage tester. Always respect the hazards that come with high voltage electricity and carefully follow all policies and procedures relating to isolating machinery and electrical safety. It only takes one small oversight or shortcut to change you or someone else's life forever. With all the moving parts around our plants and job sites, it would be easy for someone to get hurt without proper machine guarding. For this reason, no machinery may be operated without all tail pulleys, pinch points, exposed shafts, conveyor return rollers within 7 feet off the ground, and exposed moving parts protected with guards that are secured in such a way that a tool is required to remove them. All locations are required to maintain a system for regular checking of this machine guarding, whether at a quarry, plant, or on equipment. Along with machine guarding, all pad-mounted electrical transformers, tanks, and containment valves, gas lines, and gas containers must be located away from travelways and protected by barriers such that they cannot be struck by trucks or mobile equipment. It's our collective responsibility to ensure the safest work environments possible, and proper machine guarding is a big step in the right direction. A confined space is any work area that has limited means of entry or exit and is not meant for continued human occupancy. Because these work areas are inherently dangerous, prior authorization must be given to enter them, and all locations must have a policy and training that identifies all confined spaces on site and the corresponding safe entry procedures for each. Additionally, some confined spaces are made even more dangerous by their tendency to accumulate toxic fumes or gases or be oxygen deficient. These are permit-required confined spaces and include spaces such as baghouses, cold feed bins, mixer drums, tanks, silos, and similar spaces. Signs must be posted identifying these areas, and written permits must be used to ensure that proper safety measures such as training, the use of gas monitors, and rescue procedures are implemented in advance. In construction, it is also common for workers to enter and work in a trench. A trench is defined as an excavation that is deeper than it is wide and is no wider than 15 feet. A trench can be considered a confined space, and it is critical that employees and contractors consider confined space issues in these situations as well. Fall protection is often overlooked when completing activities such as basic maintenance or other tasks. However, serious injury or death can easily occur at these heights. All locations must have a written fall protection policy available for employees to review, and all employees shall train on. A fall hazard risk assessment must be done whenever employees are exposed to non-routine fall hazards. In general, there are 2 regulatory limits that dictate the use of fall protection. 1, for most fixed facilities, shops, quarries, and plants, fall protection must be used when working at heights at or above 4 feet. 2, for construction projects, fall protection must be used when working at heights at or above 6 feet. To ensure work is done safely, all employees should be aware of the various tools and devices, such as harnesses, lanyards, beam straps, and guardrails, to name a few, that are available to achieve 100% fall protection. Additionally, harnesses and lanyards must be inspected prior to every use. In general, ladders should be considered as a last resort when needing to work from an elevated position. If necessary to work from a portable ladder, however, the ladder should be positioned with a 4-to-1 pitch. For every 4 feet up, the base should be 1 foot out, and be secured at the top. The worker should be tied off if they cannot achieve 3 points of contact when performing the task at hand. When accessing an area, ladders should be extended at least 3 feet above the landing surface. All ladders must have a visual capacity rating and be in good condition. 3 points of contact stickers must also be visible at ladderways or access points of all plants and mobile equipment. Statistically, falls kill more workers every year than any other hazard. Your hazard awareness in this area is required and expected when working on all CRH projects or facilities. When working on a CRH job site or facility, it is imperative that all operators of lifting devices, such as cranes, excavators, and loaders, be adequately trained by a designated competent person. All lifting equipment, such as straps, cables, and chains, must have the working load limit identified on the device, and all devices must be visually inspected prior to every use and have a documented visual inspection every month, with equipment removed immediately from service if it is found to be deficient. Specific areas where lifting can take place must be designated and marked out of bounds to personnel during lifting, such as a crane's swing radius. All loads must be correctly attached to lifting devices by a trained rigger to ensure that the load is correctly secured with the proper center of gravity. The proper use of taglines is also required for controlling loads. It's important to remember that these policies should be followed no matter how light or heavy the load may be for the task at hand. Failure to properly assess the risks associated with working near underground or overhead utilities or gas lines can be disastrous. When working on CRH projects or facilities, a documented risk assessment must take place if your work involves the possible exposure to utility dangers. This assessment must include a site survey as well as locations of all underground utility lines and pipes in the work area. During lifting operations, it is also imperative to conduct a risk assessment of the work area and appropriately mark overhead lines with signs, cones, and/or other markings. If you have to work within 10 feet of an energized line, all appropriate procedures must be followed according to local regulations and CRH policies. One hazard often overlooked is the danger of overhead utilities for dump trucks and other vehicles or equipment with higher than normal loads on the road or on paving operations. Fatal injuries can occur if a dump truck driver fails to lower their bed prior to passing under an energized utility line. Spotters can help alert drivers to these situations. Remember, pre-planning and teamwork can often be the difference in life or death. Personal protective equipment, such as hard hats, high-visibility clothing, safety glasses, hearing protection, work boots, and the like, is your first line of defense against injuries. And we expect all our workers and contractors to wear appropriate PPE for the task at hand 100% of the time. A written policy detailing the necessary PPE for all operations should be in place, and no contractor or employee will be permitted to work on a job site or facility without proper PPE. Know that the certain higher risk tasks, such as unloading liquid asphalt, welding, or working at night, for example, necessitate many additional forms of PPE. Again, always consult with the site policy or ask an on-site manager if you have any questions about what is required. Also keep in mind that each employee is responsible for inspecting their own PPE daily prior to use. When used on CRH facilities and job sites, all pressurized conveying and storage systems for solids, liquids, and gases must be fitted with proper pressure relief systems, and documented inspection of these systems must be conducted regularly. Pressurized equipment must comply with all MSHA and OSHA regulations. All compressed gas tanks must be secured during use and then separated and stored properly. Regulators must be in good condition and regularly checked for accuracy and proper function. In addition, air hoses must be securely fastened and have whip checks present where they attach to the air compressor. Compressed air is to be used for cleaning work areas and never on personnel. Improper handling of pressurized vessels or their contents can be extremely dangerous. A well-executed blast is always exciting to watch. For obvious reasons, however, it can also be extremely dangerous. Every CRH site where blasting occurs has a corresponding policy in place covering general requirements for blasting safety and will require that pre-blast reviews are conducted and blasting records, including blasting logs, seismograph readings, and shot diagrams, are maintained. All on-site employees must have training on site-specific blasting rules, and all personnel, whether contractors or CRH employees who carry out blasting operations, must have the appropriate training and qualifications. For the safety of everyone involved, please do your part ensuring blasting operations are done safely and in compliance with this policy and all appropriate regulations.
Started to release a little bit more information about what happened here overnight and the accident that killed a construction worker, and right now they are saying
Unfortunately, many of the fatalities suffered by our contractors occur in work zones. In some of these cases, the contracted worker turned his or her back to moving equipment and, tragically, was run over. Workers are at times mere feet from traffic. We all must remain attentive and as visible as possible to avoid accidents. Here are some minimum requirements for working in a CRH work zone. 1. All workers must be trained for their specific roles, such as flaggers and maintenance of traffic control, and every employee that works on a road or construction job site should receive annual work zone awareness training. Work zone employees must also be familiar with the Best Practices for Mitigating the Effects of Work Zone Intrusions manual. 2. Always wear the appropriate PPE and high visibility apparel, and never come within 10 feet of a piece of equipment without making eye contact with the operator first. Keep in mind that work at night requires special PPE for workers and retroreflective tape for equipment visibility. 3. All equipment in the work zone must be equipped with flashing lights as required, and all backup or audible alarms must be working properly. 4. All traffic control must be inspected regularly and documented by a designated competent person. 5. An internal traffic control plan must be created for each project to control the traffic movement within the work zone. The backer spotter policy must also be in place so that employees have knowledge on backing and repositioning operations. 6. Also, a copy of the most current MUTCD, or Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and state or local traffic control standards must be readily available on all projects. A work zone is a very dangerous place, and as such, our operations within that zone must be carried out safely each and every day. Know the plans on your job site and stay alert. It only makes sense that those who are closest to the risk should have the most to say about how to address the risk, which is why CRH strongly values and encourages the input of all personnel when it comes to doing our work safely. For that reason, we expect that employees and contractors participate in group problem-solving and risk reduction meetings. We also expect that our employees implement and engage in mentoring, near-miss reporting, behavioral observations, auditing, and other activities that foster employee engagement and safety discussions. Employee involvement not only promotes safety, it can improve efficiency and profitability. When we communicate and work together, we all win. The final CRH life-saving rule is contractor safety management. Throughout CRH, contractors are an integral part of how we get our work done, and we rely on them to complete our work safely. As such, we evaluate all potential contractors using our Contractor Safety Management Guide or checklist. Prior to work on our sites, contractors must receive a safety induction and once on site have appropriate oversight when working at our facilities. We also require our contractors to partake in our daily on-site safety huddles and, of course, follow all of the job site PPE requirements. When we say everyone should go home safe at the end of the day, we mean everyone. Work in the materials and construction industry certainly has its share of potential risks. However, if we all remain committed to staying alert, looking out for one another, doing the job right every time, and following the CRH life-saving rules, your job site can be a great and safe place to work. If you have any questions about the life-saving rules or the policies discussed in this video, please contact members of your local CRH management team or EHS department. Remember, there is no such thing as a dumb question when it comes to safety. So if you have any questions, ask. We're here to help each other. Thank you for your commitment to keeping CRH a great and safe place to work.